Life gets better and better each and every day. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. I just got off a show before this show, and listening and having a conversation with Kirk Franklin is just absolutely amazing. One of my closest friends. But this man's knowledge is incredible. Thank you for joining the show. Always No Excuses presents the Ray Lewis Show, but everyday greatness. We're talking about everyday greatness. And I'm telling you, this next guest forever, brutally honest, forever changed the way that I saw manhood. The game of football is one thing, but the way that I saw manhood, this next guest of mine caught me young. He caught me young, and he molded me to be this young man, this guy that I turned into. I'm not gonna prolong no more. He's probably one of the greatest brains I've ever been around in my entire career. Walking into a meeting with him, I knew we were gonna figure it out. I gotta bring on probably one of my favorite coaches of all time, the great Coach Del Rio. Coach, what is going on? How are you doing?
Hey.
It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you, Ray. Doing great, man. Blessed. Life is good. And man, my time with you was special. Really enjoyed it. And man, it's good to be on with you. Good to see you.
Coach, listen, first of all, let me get the man side out of me. Man, I love you, man. I love you and I miss you like no other. Real talk, right? And seeing you the other night on the reunion, I'm like, oh my gosh, the memories, man. Coach, you got to take me back for a minute. I need to go back with you. Give me some of the moments that you remember in that season, 2000, when we first got together, that you knew was going to be special.
Well, I think, Ray, if you remember, I challenged you. I challenged you because I said, Ray, I'm always going to respect you. Mm-hmm. Nothing but love and respect. That's how I operate. Yeah. But I said, I've got to be able to coach you. Mm-hmm. I've got to be able to coach you. And I said, if you allow me to coach you, then the guys are going to realize and they're going to be accountable. And it's going to be like, if Ray's being accountable, I damn sure got to be accountable. So it was like, and the whole deal that we talked about, and I wanted to put in your mind at that time as a young leader, is that the great players, the truly great players, mm-hmm. the guys that have statues in front of the stadium like you do, okay? those guys, they don't just play great football themselves. Mm. They get people around them to raise their level of play. And it's not just about you doing your thing. You're going to do your thing, but it's about you impacting people around you. And it started in the linebacker room, because when I first got there, Jamie and Peter and those guys were like, man, Ray ain't coming. Ray's not coming. And I was like, no, Ray's going to be here, damn it. So it was like, but it was like, the most important thing for us, like all being all in and all accountable, started with you, because you were clearly the leader, the natural leader of that group.
Yeah.
And you were clearly a stud and you could play great football on your own, but how you impacted your teammates. And to your credit, you were like, Coach, you just always keep it real, and I'm going to stay with you. So I was like, okay, I will always respect you, always, coach from a positive standpoint, but I have to be able to. And boy, you hated to be corrected. Let me just tell you, you hated to be corrected. But that was it.
What does that mean? What does that mean, though? What does that mean, Coach? Talk to me.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome, because that's the pride you took in your performance, and Maxie Vaughn on the way out, he was your coach before me, right? And so he said, hey, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to tell you one thing about Ray. He said, you're never going to have to motivate Ray to play hard. You're going to have to talk Ray and slow him down so he doesn't kill himself on the field or his teammates, And so it was true. It was true. You were a hunting dog, man. You would not stop, all right, from beginning to end. And we had to monitor how much you did.
Coach, you you just told me about a crew of linebackers that you watched growing up yourself. I want you to explain that crew of linebackers. Then you yourself had a long, successful career in the National Football League. You leave the league and you go into coaching. Who are those linebackers before? Number one. Number two, you leave the league at playing linebacker and you go into coaching. Why did you choose coaching?
Yeah. It's interesting. All right, let me start with the trio that I had a picture of when I was in high school. And I grew up a Raider fan. Yeah. But I admired the Steeler linebackers. There were three of them that played together. It was Ham, it was Lambert, and I believe it was Cole. And the three of them were really, really fine football players, you know. And it was a great unit. And I had a picture of them, the three of them. And so I actually got a better picture, all right, because in that Super Bowl year, that run, I asked the photographer, grab me a picture of my guys. And you three, right before the kickoff, you kind of grouped up and you were talking to Jamie and Pete. And the three of y'all, man, and it's like that replaced. I put the old one away. I've got the three, I think the greatest trio of linebackers in the history of the NFL. And I got y'all, and it's right there on my shelf, man. It's right there on my I just saw right there behind me. So special. Yeah. Now, what was the other piece?
And then why coaching? You played the game at a very high level for a lot of Coach, you played for a long time.
Yeah, I played for a long time.
You played for a long time, Coach, and you played the game the right way. Why coaching? Was that your passion? Was that what you wanted to do, or it was something you felt?
So first of all, while I was playing, it was like, there's no way I'm coaching. There's no way. So Tony Dungy, who I consider my mentor, all right, Tony ultimately got me into coaching. Okay, so I played for Tony in Minnesota, and then we kept waiting on him getting the job. Kind of like Bieniemy right now, he's not getting the job. How come he's not getting the job? That's how it was with Tony. We were like, how the hell is Tony not getting the job? How is he not getting the job? So we knew Tony was going to be great. All right, and so we were all every year cheering for Tony. Come on, Tony, you're going to get it this year. Well, he finally got it. And I was right at the tail end of my career. I played 4 years for Tony. And he went down to Tampa. And he wanted to take me with – he asked me, he said, you want to come coach? I think you'd be a great coach. You know, the way you prepare, the way you communicate with the guys, I just think you'd be really good at it. And I was like, I still want to play a little bit longer. And so he had come out to the Senior Bowl the next year, and I did not go with him. And so now I'm done playing. It didn't work out for me with Jimmy and at the end and da-da-da. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is Tony comes out. He goes, let's go to lunch. So we go to lunch, and Tony's like, hey, are you happy? I was like, yeah, everything's cool. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, are you really happy? And I'm like, no, man, I'm miserable, actually. So I had spent 4 off seasons preparing for life after football. During the off season, before my workouts, I would work at Merrill Lynch. So I was actually a licensed financial consultant. I passed my Series 7, Series 63, all that stuff. I was licensed up and running. And when I had to do it full time, it was like, oh my God, I can't see myself doing this. So Tony caught me at the right time. Well, Tony got my curiosity. Tony got me into it, okay? But ultimately, Mike Ditka hired me. But Tony was the one that reminded me. I mean, I love the game. I've always loved the game. I love the passion, the intensity of it. And I was always a smart player, you know. And so, bottom line is it kind of worked for me. Iron Mike hired me as an assistant strength coach, and 6 years later, I was a head coach. Well, 3 of those years I spent with you in Baltimore, and those were, to me, Brian Billick. He was making head coaches. He was grooming us to be future head coaches. I mean, he did a great job with us and developing us. But being around great players like yourself, made it happen and really put me on the fast track.
You ran by this really fast, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know how long the show is, man.
Listen,
I don't want to bore anybody.
No, I'm gonna tell you why. Tony Dungy is one of the greatest coaches and motivators of all time. Then you run into Mike Ditka, who's been your mentor. Out of that tree, that family tree that you actually went through, what was the greatest lesson you think you learned? And from who?
Well, it's hard to pick just one guy.
Yeah.
It really is.
Many of them.
Because they all impacted my life. Yeah. I consider Tony Dungy my mentor because he really put it in my head that I would be good at it, and that he really, I just respected everything about Tony. The way he prepared us, just the whole bit. I mean, he was always just rock solid.
Yeah.
He didn't tell you what you wanted to hear, but he told you what you needed to hear. I just really appreciated Tony. I played for a lot of great coaches. Denny Green was the head coach there in Minnesota. I loved my time with Denny.
Yeah.
I played for Jimmy Johnson in Dallas. I love Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy was a different cat. Jimmy was driving you into the ground every day. He didn't care about anything but winning. And but I appreciated that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was with some great people. I was drafted originally by Bum Phillips at the New Orleans Saints.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so yeah, and that's back in '85. And city champ Ricky Jackson, we call him city champ, but Ricky was basically the one who took me under his wing while I was there in New Orleans. So yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun playing. I played for some great people. And when you get your own shot and you start coaching, you kind of take a little bit, you want to be yourself. I'm always, this, I was always authentic. I was always.
Yes.
And one thing I remember that you said to me, you said, I really, what I appreciate about you, Coach, you always keep it real.
You always keep it real.
And I've taken that the rest of my career. I'm like, I'm going to keep it real with you. I am going to do that. And,
But I'm going to tell you why I asked the question, right? Because, Coach, you think about over the years, right? A lot of people look at where you are now, but I tell people all the time, like, they was like, man, how did you have such a great career? I was talking to 35, 40 guys last night, and I was like, you guys, listen, I'm telling you, I just did not get coached by these great people. I became a sponge to how Jack Del Rio treated a man. Right. Coach, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, the only time that I probably ever saw you ever get mad is when somebody didn't do something or tried to lie to you about something. And me and you, for whatever reason, and I know why, we never had that. We never had that. So I'm telling you, like, it's these lessons, right? Because I had Maxie Vaughn, then I come to Jack Del Rio, and I had Marvin, and I had, and I had Mike Singletary. So I'm like, what am I supposed to take from all of this? So when you watch your family tree, when you watch my family tree, this is why I'm excited to have you on. Because seriously, watching the way you coached me and the way you coached us, I never walked in a meeting room fearful, even if I messed up.
Right.
Because you always said one thing: give me what you got full speed, we'll figure out the rest.
Exactly. Exactly. To me, that's the key, man. It's like to take, and I work with my staff right now in Washington. I'm trying to create that same atmosphere because guys, when they cut loose and when your coach has your back, you can cut loose at a different level. And so my whole thing is I'm going to get mad. And this is why we never had a disagreement. No problem. Because the only thing I'm going to get on you for is a lack of effort or a lack of concentration. And that was never a problem with Ray Lewis. Never. And so, when I see that, I will go off on somebody. But beyond that, I'm going to love it. I'm going to praise you. I'm going to respect you. I'm going to work with you. And that's how I operate. But if you're loafing or dogging it, or you're not focused or you're not concentrating, then I'm going to get in your shit. Then I'm going to be all over you.
Right.
So, it's like, to me, that That's just, you respect the game, you appreciate the game, and you attack it the right way. We're gonna roll. We're gonna be all right. You know?
Hey, look, we had some special moments. Coach, in 2000. I'm telling you, so many special moments. And for the first time in 20 plus years, Coach, this is the first time that I've ever went backwards. Seriously. I've never watched our tapes. I've never watched what we've done. But I wanted to ask you if there was one game that stood out to you the most about your linebacker core or defense. What was that game that you remember from 2000?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, man, because I tell people about it all the time. I tell my coaching staff when I tell them what my grading system is, which I took the grading system that we used back in Baltimore, which Mike Smith actually brought. Mm-hmm. And so it was a grade system, and it was really like, did you use the technique? Did you perform? Did you make a play? And did you get some production? And we had a formula for it. So the first playoff game,
Denver.
When we had Denver at home.
Denver.
You played a perfect game. and I'm like, no, he is not getting the perfect grade. I went in there and I gave you a false step. I gave you a false step minus false step. But I made the play, coach. Yeah, but you took the wrong step. You took the wrong footwork. So I had to ding you somewhere. So that to me, that was the greatest game I ever watched you play. Now
I was going to ask you about that half a point.
And let me tell you, that was Mike Shanahan in his prime. Mike was a damn good coach. All right.
Yes.
Then we go beat Heimerdinger, right, with Tennessee, and they were good. They had good people, but Eddie George didn't like you. He couldn't handle you. But anyway, they were good. And then we go John Gruden. We knock off John Gruden and the Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we get Sean Payton as the OC of the Giants. So it's not like when we went through that 4-game stretch and we gave up one touchdown in 4 games in the postseason. 1 in 4 games. Okay. It'll never be duplicated. Never. That's why that was the greatest run in the history of the league. What we did that year. Special.
But this is why I bring that up. So you remember, and it's interesting, right? Because the last game we lost is actually in the place you are right now in Washington, right? That was the last game. And I never forget when Stephen Davis broke that big 40-yard run on us. And I never forget coming in that meeting and we was losing our minds coming in that meeting. But remember, I think we gave up maybe less than 200 yards. And I never forget. I'm telling you this, Coach. This is why, from a player perspective, why I always appreciated you. I watched how calm you walked in that meeting, and I'm telling you, I watched it every week because look, players have a different perspective when they blew a coverage, messed up in the game, got blocked, whatever it was. Right? They come in there and their Monday is messed up because they got to listen to coach. But I'm telling you, when I walked in after that game and I sat there and looked at you, now I'm boiling. I'm boiling because we done gave up this one touchdown.
Sure.
Right. But we only gave up one touchdown. Right.
Right.
I'm like about to lose my mind. Like, man, I can't believe we gave up this one touchdown. And I'll never forget you say, look, we just got to come back to work. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm looking at you and I'm like, Coach, so calm. I'm like, Coach, like, look, we can't play no better football than what we're playing now. Now we can get better, but I'm just telling you, and that day, Pete, Jamie, the whole defense will tell you, when we got out that day, I said, look, man, I said, it's on us, bro. I said, we got the staff to do what we gonna do, man. It's on us. And remember that. That's right when I went to Shannon, went to Rod, went to Goose, went to everybody, and we went up to Billick office. Because I realized that day, Coach, I'm telling you forever changed the way I saw the game. I say, man, look, Coach, man, on the defensive side, we ain't stressing about nothing. We are ready to strap it up and play football. And it was how you taught the game. It was the appreciation of how the way we went through install. And this just to give people insight. When we started breaking down film, I remember you used to look at plays because you played linebacker. You used to look and play and say, Ray, I'm gonna need you to knock him out right here.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I would sit there and be like, oh, coach giving me the go ahead and knock him out.
Exactly.
But that's how you go.
And, you know, and one thing I always believe in is, like, I never want to take away your ability to be a playmaker. So we never want to coach that out of you, you know? And so wanted to give you the confidence to let it rip, to go, you know, just understand what your assignment is. But beyond that, like, play football, man. We're not looking for robots. We're looking for production. We're looking for playmakers. And man, that was right in your wheelhouse. You're like, you mean I can if I see this, I can just take off. I'm like, yeah, as long as you taking care of your business, you know, you go, man, go make the plays. And so we never wanted to coach you out of being the natural playmaker that you were. And some of that is instinctual, and some of it is the preparation. And one thing about it, I'll tell you now, there's never been a player that has worked harder prior to getting into that Wednesday meeting than you. Yeah. Really, one of the things that you did that was super important for the type of career you put together is your preparation. Yeah, you worked at it, and I remember coming in. I mean, I I was going to give it to you, but I knew you were also looking at a lot of tape, so I knew my stuff had to be tight. Right. So when you came in the room, you know, I wanted to make sure that the information I was giving you was tight and was checked and it was accurate, and we were all over things, and that's how we started our Wednesday meetings.
It's so funny because I had Marvin on the show a few weeks ago, right? And it's the same thing. It's something similar Marvin said, right? And Marvin was like, oh, you guys come in, we put in the defense, you come in, and then you tell us, no, that ain't the way they run it. This is the way they run it.
Yeah, Marvin had his hands full, man, because you had Rex in there or myself in there, and we're drawing stuff up, and Donnie Henderson, we're in the back, we're in our offices, we're drawing stuff up. So we had this deal. We come in with Marvin. He would like, okay, we get the third down, you guys can come up with something, but you got to have it well thought out. Yeah. So we'd come in there, man. We'd have guys coming from everywhere, but as long as it was thought through and it was well thought out, and it could withstand the staff attacking it, withstand that, then he put it in.
Absolutely.
We'd have it in the game plan. You guys would tear it up.
There's been a lot of conversation, and I get this so much, Coach. I really do. And it's just it's refreshing because I'm having this conversation with you, right? But I get this question all the time, and I'm just going to ask you, and I know you may be a little biased, but it's the truth. I just want to hear your truth. Greatest defense of all time. Greatest defense of all time.
I mean, honestly, to me, there have been a lot of great players, a lot of great teams. Okay. No. I think I have the football. I don't have it in here. It's in my other office, but I have the football that says 165 points
total
in a 16-game season.
Total.
On top of that, in 4 playoff games,
1 touchdown.
1 touchdown. Now, I know at the end of the day, and we did it. This was in an era, there was spread offense. There was, multiple receivers. It's not far from what it is right now in terms of what, how offenses attack you. And so I am biased, yes, but I truly believe that what we did that year and what we were able to accomplish in not only the regular season where we had 4 shutouts. Yeah. And 165 points given up.
960 yards total rushing. 960 total for the whole year.
Which is still number 1 in the history of the league. Yeah. And so if you look at some of these things and you just say, and you really look at it and you're honest, that was the greatest year any defense has ever had. Now, there were some runs where other teams maybe stayed together longer.
Yeah, the Steel Curtain, the Bears. Yeah.
Yeah, the Steelers had a run in the 70s, man. I mean, them dudes were really gifted, and they had a long run. We didn't have as long of a run, right? But that one special year, that was the greatest year ever had by a defense. So I really believe that.
I'm always in that conversation. And I answer it the same way. That's why I want to hear from you. I say, look, if you're talking about history, you're right, guys. We weren't together that many years. But when you talk about in a 16-game season, I've never seen a defense play football like that in a very long time. Look.
Hey, I got one for you. I don't know if you know this. After that loss, the last loss we had that year. So maybe it was after y'all had gone in to see Brian. I don't know. But Brian came in a staff meeting. And he's like, okay, man. Because earlier that year, he said, I don't care if I got to throw it 70 times. We're going to move the ball through the air. Okay. And we're like, man, we got Jamal Lewis. We got this defense. I mean, what are we doing? And Brian's like, I don't care. I'm throwing the ball. I'm an offensive guy. I'm a passing guy.
Right.
All right. So after that game, that was like 5 games in a row without them scoring an offensive touchdown.
Yeah. We went 5 weeks because we went 5 weeks.
Yeah. And I think we won 3 of them. But anyway,
we did.
The bottom line is he came in and he said, and it might have been after he talked to you guys, but he came into the staff and he's like, look, I know what I said before. I don't care about that anymore. He said, I think we can be really good if we just play to our defense. He said, I'm coming over to the dark side. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play defense, and we're going to play special teams. And it was like, we looked around, we like, okay. And we never lost another game.
We never lost another game. And that was after that meeting. After that meeting, because me and him had a conversation after that. And he told me that he went back to the coaches and said he's changing his game plan and get out of his offensive mentality and play to this defense. You're in Washington now. Yeah. And you got something special going on in Washington. But there's one player that I think I'm watching him. And I'm telling you, he is really, to me, he has a great upside. Tell me about that player, Chase Young.
Well, I gave him the ultimate compliment this year because I said that he reminds me the way he leads naturally, the way he loves football, the way he loves his teammates, the way he impacts people around him. It just reminds me of a young Ray Lewis. And he doesn't play the same position.
Right.
And I hate to put that on him, but they keep wanting to compare him with Khalil Mack, the other edge guys. Julius Peppers, and Khalil Mack and Von Miller, and I've had some special edge guys, right? And it's like, no, he's an edge player, but the difference is those guys were all lead by example, more quiet, kind of did their own job. Yeah. They weren't really leaders. And Chase is different, man. He's got a natural leadership about him that I think is special. And that's why I threw the name out there, because I don't just throw it around now too lightly, the Ray Lewis name, but he impacts people around him like you did, Ray. And to me, guys that do that, man, it's special. And you can feel it. And it's natural. It's like he's not forcing it, he's not creating it. Right. It's just who he is, it's just who he is, he's just being himself, and his teammates have gravitated to him. He's earned respect. He's got a bright future. He's a good young player with his head on right, and he's got a bright future. He just got to keep doing what he's been doing.
Yeah. Let's stay in the conversation of defense right quick, Coach. And I gotta ask you this from a defensive player, who played the game the way you played the game, old school. This way back in old school days. We played the game an old school way. Do you get frustrated at times the way the game is being called from a defensive perspective nowadays? Because me watching it personally, Coach, I lose my mind at the crib right now. These flags that they throwing, man, Coach, I don't know what to say anymore, right? I'm looking at, which I know you watch, right? I'm watching the Super Bowl, and a couple of those plays that was called against Kansas City in that first half, Coach, I don't know how you play defense. I just don't know how
those are a couple bad calls, man. It's a shame that the game was impacted like that. You know, I think it didn't end up being close enough to where people were talking about it, but there were some bad calls, you know, in that game, and that's unfortunate. I don't think. Here's what I know: the league had to do something. Mm-hmm. They had to do something because of player safety issues and the threat of us ultimately killing the goose that lays the golden egg. I mean, if we don't, as a league, if the league doesn't take steps to offer up ways to protect players from some of the injuries, from some of the things that are part of the game, if you don't eliminate some of those things, there's a chance of somebody else stepping in and killing the game. You know, so I think the league has adjusted the way it's needed to. Yeah. As we go into, 2021, 2022 and going forward, I think the league had to do some of those things from a player safety standpoint. So do I like all of it? No. Is it all tilted to offense? Yes. Okay. So I don't like that, because the guys that are getting fined for the most part are the defensive guys. Yeah. And, like there was an example, we played the 49ers and Trent Williams, this dude's a hoss, man. I mean, he's a strong dude. So he pulls around and he catches one of our linebackers, and he's just hunting the ball. He's not paying attention to Trent. And he got hit probably as hard as I've seen a guy ever be hit. Wow. I mean, yeah. And he played the rest of the game, but the next week he was out with a concussion. Like it impacted, like that hit. Nobody saw it. He kept playing, but he ended up being out the next week. And, he wasn't fined. I mean, it wasn't a penalty on him. I mean, it was a shot, it was one of those it ended up being like a blindside shot. And he blew him up. But it's like, they've taken some of that out, but a large part of it is only slanted against the defense, and that's the only part that I don't like. Yeah. It's kind of exactly what you said. Like, a lot of people don't pay attention to, everything that happens in the game. We pay attention to every little thing that happens in games, right? Right. And Coach, I'm telling you, like, I was disgusted. I'm just being honest, right? Because in the first half of that Super Bowl, they took the fight out of Kansas City. Yeah. Tampa was going to do that anyway, the way Tampa started playing. But I'm just telling you, when you watch the game and those calls that was made, I'm sitting there saying to myself, how do you even get excited for football anymore? And this me, right? Because I'm on the other side of it, right? I'm on the other side where I'm talking about it, right? And I'm like, people ask me all the time, you think you can play in this era? I'm like, playing in the era is one thing. Wanting to play in this era is a totally different thing, right? Hey, Ray. Yeah. Hey, Ray. I was at ESPN last year. I was a lot more judgmental and had a lot more to say about officiating than I do now that I'm back in the league. You know what I'm saying? Ray, we gotta be smart now. That's why can't be bringing calls against us now.
Listen, so, that's why you let me say everything and you say.
Yeah, I listen. There were two calls. The one against the Honey Badger was like it was a phantom call, and that gave him first and goal. So I mean, there were some impactful plays. Yeah, it was some impactful plays. Look, listen, Coach, I'm gonna let you get up out of here, but I gotta ask you something, right? We've been in a tough time, pandemic, right? A lot of things is going on, right? Like, what was your advice with all of the social issues and all of the things that we've been dealing with? What was your advice, right? With the lacking of black hirings for coaches, what's been your advice to your players to keep what we've always had, which is the community of brotherhood? Yeah. Right. Yeah. We don't see none of that. Right, we have a brotherhood. Yeah, I called some of my friends in the league, players, guys that I played with, guys that I coached with. Yeah, I reached out to a few guys, and I just wanted to talk. Like like, help me understand, man, because I've never seen it that way. You know, it's always been, we're men. You know, men that play hard and are accountable, my brothers. You know, love them, and you know, men that don't do things right. You know, I don't have a lot of patience for you, but it doesn't have shit to do with race. You know, so to me, my whole thing is, look, you be who you are, okay, but I'm gonna from a place of love and respect, and to me, that's where I'm coming from. Listen, I respect, you can have your own opinion. I'm going to respect your opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm going to operate from love and respect. And to me, when you stay in those areas, I think you eliminate some of the other stuff that can get in the way of what really is the truth. Because the truth is, you know, when we got together 20 years ago and did what we did, playing and coaching together, it wasn't any of us thinking or talking about any kind of race or any of that stuff, man. It was just love. It was work. It was commitment. It was accountability, sacrifice, you know. And like you said, there was a brotherhood. There was a brotherhood. I mean, you know, when we see each other now, man, it just pours out. It's like, you know, so appreciative of that time that we had together. And so I would just say we have an opportunity, and I really believe, like a forum like the NFL, where people see us, and if they can see us loving and respecting each other, and if they can see us, you know, pulling together and just show them what it looks like, man. Show them what it looks like to be brothers, you know. And to me, we have a great opportunity to show the rest of the world what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, like I knew before we got on this show that you were going to be absolutely amazing. But just catching up with you is just, it's so special, right? And you heard me say this on the reunion the other night. Like, I get it that we all got our own lives and we're going to live our own lives. Yeah. But I miss you, man. And I just think we should stay in contact a little bit more, because life is crazy, right? It's just crazy, and it goes so many opposite ways. And what you did for my life, the way you impacted my life, the way you made me see not only football, but manhood. I'm just telling you, like, I tell my story all the time, and it's impossible for me to tell my story without mentioning Jack Del Rio. That's facts.
Well, much respect, man. Appreciate you.
Man, mad respect. Coach, listen, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I see you got Washington playing at a very high level. Be careful, Washington. That defense, they got Jack Del Rio behind them. It's a lot going on over there. Coach, continued success, man. I love you. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for all the wisdom that you planted in my heart. And every day I'm trying to find a better me. So I appreciate you, Coach.
Ray, I appreciate you, man. And we're gonna spend more time. It's been too long. It's been great catching up, man. And I miss you. I love you as well, and wish you nothing but the best. And look forward to us getting together soon, man.
We will, Coach. I appreciate you, man. Be good, brother.
Okay, Ray. Thank you.
All right, baby. All right.
Peace out.
Absolutely. I don't even know how you check in after that, right? I'm actually checked out because I remember being 23 and 24 years old and trying to figure out life and walking into those meetings. And I'm telling every coach this, every coach who has an opportunity to coach men, if you treat a man like a man, he will give you everything he got, then some. That's what I'm telling you, what Jack Del Rio and that entire coaching staff ultimately did for us. But the times that I spent with this coach, I'm talking about, I'm checking in because, like, I'm in this space now, and I'm grabbing all of this knowledge. I'm 45 now, so I'm grabbing all of this knowledge from new brothers. But when I go backwards, I miss what that foundation is, right? It's like when I get into these thoughts coming up in a minute, right? It's like, I think it's time for us in our country. It's time to heal. We got to take time to heal. Like, I'm gonna jump into my thoughts. I ain't gonna be quick today, but I just want you guys to understand something. Thank you for joining the show, Jack. Jesus, I mean, oh my gosh, I wish I could just scrap up again. I may go out there and just try to play for him next year, just to go out there one more time, just to play for him. But I think we got to take time to heal. And how do you do that? You have to take time for yourself, and you have to go back and reflect on what matters the most. And honestly, I want you to listen to this carefully. Your wounds is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. You can't force everything to go right that maybe went wrong in your life. But to put yourself back in a place to heal, it takes time. It takes you spending time with you. We're in a different space now, right? Because social media took us in places where everybody wants our time. But I want you to listen to me carefully. People start to heal the moment that they feel heard. Stay with me when I'm trying to teach you something, because I keep learning every day, and I'm learning it from somebody who had to teach me the only way I was going to heal if I was heard. A lot of things that I endured from a young child, I wasn't heard. And the moment I started to know somebody was listening to me, I changed. How did I change? I changed because I had coaches like Marvin Lewis, like Jack Del Rio, like Mike Singletary, on and on and on. And when I was going through the thing of not having a father and not having the things that I had, I'm going to challenge you, don't struggle in silence. A problem shared is a problem halved. You got to take that pressure off of your shoulders. You're not supposed to carry all of your pain and all of your struggles by itself. One of the number one faults that a man will carry his entire life, even to his grave, is his greatest pains. That's why the brotherhood of sports and what me and Jack was discussing, it was a brotherhood. Iron sharpens iron. Even in the midst of a storm, a lot of times it don't have to be a pandemic. A lot of time we have individual storms in our lives. That's why I tell people, 20 years ago, I had brothers who sharpened me. I had men who invested in me. And because of their investment in me, the lack of not having my father gave me the strength that I needed to turn into the leader that I once became. Jack Del Rio, Mike Singletary, both shared something with me at separate times. And both of the lessons I still carry to this day. Every day of your life, you're always being watched. And if you do it right, everybody behind you will follow. But you gotta do it right. I'm gonna challenge you this week. Let go of your pain. And the only way to let it go is share with somebody that you know won't judge you. Find somebody in your world, in your circle, that you know will listen to you and never question what you say. Now, I didn't say a yes person, but I said somebody that will hear you. I had coaches and I had people that heard me. I can tell you the honest truth. There's not one coach that has ever coached me that can tell you man to man to their face that I've ever turned down their knowledge. Never. Because we found ourselves in a difficult time in life. Me talking to these 35 or 40 athletes last night, and I said, everybody walked in here and you got confidence in one thing. You got confidence in your talent. But it's going to take much more than talent to become that 1%. It's going to take a man of humility. I said, if you find a better man, you have a better football player. If you find a better man, you have a better boyfriend, you have a better husband, you have a better brother, you got a better uncle. If you become a better man. And I remember the challenge, and this is why I'm telling you this thing about taking time to heal. What I had to endure, it took time to heal, but my healing came from being the example of doing it the right way. Imagine getting up every day and appreciating your past because of the person you are today. I want you to take your time and do something this week. I told these kids, these young men this last night. When was the last time you've ever reflected on what you've been through? And after you reflect, I'm going to challenge you to restore, renew, and move forward in your life. There's a new chapter, and we got to change what the chapter says. I got a couple of calls this week about some people who's struggling with cancers. And I listened to something that they said. And one of the men said, I don't know how much longer that I have to live, Mr. Lewis. But he said, the time that you spent with me have took away my worries of my cancer. Now, this is just a text. But I told him, don't text me, call me. Find someone that will hear you. And I'm going to leave you with this, rounding up. Jack said something that to this day, I carry with me to this day. He always used to say, I'm going to treat you like a man. I'm going to always treat you like a man. And if you give me everything you got, don't worry about making a mistake. We all make mistakes. I just need you to give me everything you got. And it became so funny because I started to realize it was the same commitment that I made to my mother on why I wanted to be the man that I am. And the commitment that I made to my mother was, Mama, I promise you this. And she'll tell you these exact words. I will never do nothing that disrespects my mother, ever. And even when I found myself in tough times, she's my hardest critic. She is my hardest critic. And she used to always say to me, did you give everything you have? Did you speak your truth? Then you've done enough. And I'm asking everybody, if you've done all you can do, if you spoke your truth, don't look for social media to give you your self-gratification. Everything you're looking for is inside of you. But the challenge is, are you going to spend some time with you to realize that the only person that's going to heal you is you? It's not no medicines, it's not no doctors, it's not no drugs, it's not no alcohol. It's you. And when you have your truth and you did everything you can do, move on in life. I cannot thank you enough for joining the show today. For me, it's every day I learn something new. Because a lot of times doing a show can be beneficial for a lot of people who's listening. But most of you must understand this. doing this show has a lot of benefits for myself because the things that I share and the things that I let go keeps me moving forward. Let go of your tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Live in the moment. Take this week and take time to really heal and find somebody who you can appreciate. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining. If this is your first time, I hope you was blessed. If you've been back many a times, appreciate you coming back. Jack said something about one takeaway. I asked him about pandemic and injustice and all these different things. And the brotherhood, love. The greatest form of leadership is servanthood. The good book says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Before you love your neighbor, the challenge this week is figure out different ways to love yourself. Don't look for nobody else's approval. Figure out different ways to love yourself. And when you do, I guarantee you it exudes. It's energy, it's in the air. It spreads to everybody and they feel it. That's your challenge this week. See you next week. Appreciate you. You know the rules. Absolutely no excuses not to take care of yourself. And every day we're chasing greatness. It's the only way to find the better us. God bless you.
And now, Team No Excuses presents The Ray Lewis Show.
Life gets better and better each and every day. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. I just got off a show before this show, and listening and having a conversation with Kirk Franklin is just absolutely amazing. One of my closest friends. But this man's knowledge is incredible. Thank you for joining the show. I'll always No Excuses presents the Ray Lewis Show, but everyday greatness. We're talking about everyday greatness. And I'm telling you, this next guest forever, brutally honest, forever changed the way that I saw manhood. The game of football is one thing, but the way that I saw manhood, this next guest of mine caught me young. He caught me young and he molded me to be this young man, this guy that I turned into. I'm not gonna prolong no more. He's probably one of the greatest brains I've ever been around in my entire career. Walking into a meeting with him, I knew we were gonna figure it out. I gotta bring on probably one of my favorite coaches of all time, the great Coach Del Rio. Coach, what is going on? How are you doing?
Hey.
It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you, Ray. Doing great, man. Blessed. Life is good. And man, my time with you was special. Really enjoyed it. And man, it's good to be on with you. Good to see you.
Coach, listen, first of all, let me get the man side out of me. Man, I love you, man. I love you and I miss you like no other. Real talk, right? And seeing you the other night on the reunion, I'm like, oh my gosh, the memories, man. Coach, you got to take me back for a minute. I need to go back with you. Give me some of the moments that you remember in that season, 2000, when we first got together, that you knew was going to be special.
Well, I think, Ray, if you remember, I challenged you. I challenged you because I said, Ray, I'm always going to respect you. Mm-hmm. Nothing but love and respect. That's how I operate. Yeah. But I said, I've got to be able to coach you. Mm-hmm. I've got to be able to coach you. And I said, if you allow me to coach you, then the guys are going to realize and they're going to be accountable. And it's going to be like, if Ray's being accountable, I damn sure got to be accountable. So it was like, and the whole deal that we talked about, and I wanted to put in your mind at that time as a young leader, is that the great players, the truly great players, the guys that have statues in front of the stadium like you do, okay? those guys, they don't just play great football themselves. They get people around them to raise their level of play. And it's not just